He almost threw the box away that morning, the old dusty one tucked behind forgotten shoes and winter blankets. But something, a strange pull he couldn't explain, made him open it. And inside, he found a letter that didn't just change his day. It changed everything he thought he knew about his life. Let me take you into his story, a quiet revelation that arrives when you're least ready for it. His name was Adeel, 26, not lost exactly, but drifting. The kind of drifting where you wake up every day, follow the same routine, nod through conversations, and still feel like you're living someone else's life. He worked at a small stationery shop his uncle owned, a place that smelled like ink, dust, and old receipts. People came and went, asking for pens and notebooks, but Adeel felt like a placeholder in his own existence. He wasn't unhappy, but he wasn't anything, just suspended. One Thursday morning, a slow, quiet one with barely any customers, his uncle asked him to clean out the store's back storage. "Throw whatever's useless," he said, waving his hand toward the stacks of old boxes. So Adeel began sorting. Most boxes held broken pens, expired glue bottles, faded wrappers. Then he reached the last shelf, the top one, where an old brown box sat alone, almost sagging under its own age. He pulled it down. Dust spiraled into the air. The lid was soft from humidity, the cardboard bending like it had endured years of silence. Inside were things he didn't expect. Old photographs from the early 90s, receipts from markets that no longer existed, a rusted watch, and, at the very bottom, a folded letter, edges yellowed, sealed with tape that had long lost its stickiness. His name wasn't on it. The handwriting didn't look familiar, but something told him the letter belonged to someone in the family. He hesitated, then opened it. The handwriting inside was shaky, but full of emotion, like the writer had fought every second to finish it. Adeel, if you're reading this, then maybe you've reached an age when this might matter. I don't know what kind of man you'll become, but I hope you don't lose the fire you were born with. Adeel paused. He looked again at the name. It was for him, but written by someone he didn't recognize. He kept reading. "You're different. I saw it when you were little, how you noticed things other kids ignored, how you stared at the world like it was telling you secrets. You're meant to do something meaningful, even if others don't see it yet." Adeel felt his chest tighten. He didn't grow up hearing things like this. No one had ever spoken to him this way. Not with belief, not with certainty. He turned the page. "I don't know what life will hand you. Maybe it'll be heavy, maybe it'll be confusing. But promise me one thing. Don't settle for the version of life that feels easiest. Choose the one that feels honest, even if it scares you." His throat tightened. The back of his eyes stung. He flipped to the last part where the signature should have been. Just one line. "From the person who loved you before you knew what love was." That was it. No name. No date. Adeel sat in the dusty storage room, the letter trembling in his hands. Questions rushed through his mind. Who wrote it? Why was it hidden? Why had no one told him? That evening, he took the letter home. He asked his mother about it the moment she opened the door. Her eyes froze, not in fear, but in recognition. She sat down on the sofa and told him everything. The letter was from his grandmother, the one he'd never met. She passed away when he was barely a year old. She'd written letters for each grandchild, to be opened at the right time, but no one knew where they were kept. "And you found it today," his mother whispered. "Maybe this is your right time." That night, Adeel read the letter again. But this time, the words didn't just touch him. They confronted him. He realized he'd been drifting because he'd convinced himself he wasn't meant for anything more. Not because he had no dreams, but because he'd buried them so deep he forgot they existed. But his grandmother, someone who barely knew him, had seen something he had stopped believing was there. The next morning, he woke up with a feeling he hadn't felt in years. A quiet, honest courage. He didn't quit his job. He didn't run off to chase some dramatic new life. He simply started by doing something small, something that felt like him. He began writing not for fame, not for anyone's approval, just to hear his own thoughts again. Every morning before the shop opened, he wrote for 15 minutes. Sometimes it was messy. Sometimes it made no sense. Sometimes it surprised him. And slowly, a version of himself he thought had died began returning. A version that cared, that noticed, that felt alive. Weeks passed, then months, and one evening, as he closed the shop, he realized something strange. He wasn't drifting anymore. He was choosing who he wanted to be, choosing what he wanted his days to feel like, choosing honesty over ease, just like his grandmother had asked. The letter hadn't given him answers. It had given him permission to live on purpose. And sometimes that's all a person really needs. In the end, he didn't just find a letter. He found the courage to meet the person he was always meant to become.